Hello. Welcome to Level Up with Rachel podcast. And we have today again my beautiful friend, Serena. I don't
Well,
know why I
thank
felt like
you.
singing it, but I did. Um,
I sing everything, so it's okay.
I do too. My kids look
Mhm.
at look at me like I'm nuts, but then they do it too now, so it's great. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
I was just telling Serena that I was so excited about this podcast today, that I had a hard time going to sleep last night because I was just so excited to connect again and dive more into all the things that we did on the first podcast and see what else comes up. And
Mhm.
um, I know that so many of you resonated with what we shared on the first connection that we had. And so we just thought, yeah, let's do a take two. And if we need to do a take three, a take four, let's go for it. To one, I enjoy talking about this kind of thing because when I first was separated, it felt like not a lot of women were talking about it from this angle or sharing from different perspectives and just the rawness of what it means to date again after divorce and separation. And then also what dating again brings up and what you learn not just in the romantic partnerships, but also in other relationship dynamics in your life. And so, yeah, I'm excited to have you. Do you want to give your like a little introduction again, just in case this is someone's first time seeing you, hearing you, all the things?
Mm. Yes. See me, hear me. My name is Serena Rose, and I'm a sex, love, dating, and relationships coach and a business manager and an entrepreneur and an embodied woman activist. And I support people in getting to know themselves, each other, their kinks, and exploring love in ways that actually feel good, even when it doesn't feel good, which is an important part of the process as to not be overlooked. And I think that's something that we double downed on our last episode together was the not so enjoyable moments of partnership, especially early on in dating, when you're exiting out of the honeymoon phase and starting to find those moments of tension or the pieces of tension that might exist, and just how to navigate those. And those things pop up in relationships, in life, in your body, in everything. And so yeah, it is so important to lean into the shadows and the light in equal parts. And I'm a dynamic creature who loves to embrace all parts of who I am, the spiritual baddie part of myself, and also the like gangsta girl part of myself from Baltimore, and just all the different pieces and parts that make me who I am. And I think that's so needed in the world.
Hmm. Yes, to all of that. Thank you for that introduction. Um, the first thing that popped up that I was like, what do I want to ask first? What do I want to ask first? Um, is what do you feel has been the best thing that you've learned about yourself since separation and divorce and just having that, I don't want to say freedom, but it is kind of like a new freedom, like a new sense of finding yourself. What has been the best thing that has come from this?
Oh, damn. Well, I think I'm gonna share something that I don't think I've shared anywhere with anyone yet up until this point, until this moment right now, and it feels a little raw and scary. But to trust my gut. There was a moment right before I was about to walk down the aisle where my gut like did jumping jacks inside of me. And was like, don't do it. Something's not right. And I'm like, oh, Serena, this is just, wedding jitters, whatever. And even when we were married, I would sometimes think about that moment, especially when we were having those moments of tension. And in dating, I have now put into hardcore practice to trust my gut, even if it doesn't make sense. And the thing about trusting your gut that can be tricky is discerning whether it is your own subconscious fears getting in the way, or if it is actually something to be honored and listened to. And the only way really to be able to decipher that is to get to know yourself and to touch those not so enjoyable parts of yourself. And to also touch the really yummy, delicious, joyful parts of yourself. Because another way that I lean into trusting my gut is following my joy. And, you know, if I see something and like a bench with the sun shining on it in just the right way, even if I just have extra 5 minutes, I go and I sit on that damn bench, and I listen to my gut and I let it guide me. And sometimes we have to learn to trust it a little bit more and what that means and what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that because
Ooh, yeah.
interestingly enough, um, when I reflect back on when I was dating and engaged and things like that, and people have asked me, were there signs before? And there was definitely
Mhm,
signs, and not necessarily when I was walking down the aisle, but there was a time where we were newly engaged. We were maybe engaged for a month, and I basically broke up with him. And we didn't really talk for like a day or two. And somehow we found our way back together. And I realized that a lot of that was what you're saying, not trusting my gut. And also, a huge part of that reason was listening to other people's opinions about what was
mhm,
best for me and my future.
mhm,
And kind of, where I come from, but I also think it is common. People were telling me things like, "Oh, you're getting old," and who else is, he has great potential, and this is basically like the best that you're gonna get, and
mhm,
because you're getting older, and it made me start to question my worth and like, oh, like, okay. And also not considering like accepting where this person was and only focusing on their potential was actually not fair to him.
mhm.
Like, that's really shit. And I've told
Yeah.
him that before after we separated and stuff, or maybe it was right before. I said, "Did you marry me for me, or did you marry me for my potential?" And he was like, "I married you for you." I was like, and I
Mhm,
was like, I married you for you, but I married you more for your potential. And so when that potential that I created in my mind and other people had put in my head never came to fruition, and it was never going to be,
mhm.
who's at fault there? That's not really fair to him either. Now, there was a whole lot of other reasons why we split up, but these are just like little things that I was like, never again am I going to listen to other people's opinions about what's best for me. I will take it into consideration
Yeah.
and I will
Yeah.
listen, but at the end of the day, I will trust my gut and trust what I need, because only I know me best. And
Mhm,
I know that those people had good intentions. I'm not saying that those people were, trying to set me up for failure or thought less of me or anything. It was all from a place of love. Because at that time, before I had met him, I was, what some people around me were labeling like wild. I was like untamed and living this wild life. But to me, I was just living life. I was living a life of freedom and traveling the world and living my best life. I was not living a life that people understood because they were living what other people told them to live. So I lived outside that box and people didn't know how to categorize me and thought that that was wild, and against the grain. And that's just how I've always been. And now I just accept that about myself. And that's what makes me unique and different. And it gets to be okay. It doesn't mean anything wrong or bad. But also, in saying all of that, with the trusting my gut, sometimes your gut or your body isn't necessarily right either. So I've had to learn to check in with myself and go, okay, am I running from this or blocking this or keeping walls up or feeling uncomfortable because my body isn't used to this? Because my body is wired for survival and fight or flight and chaos and toxic relationships and unhealthy, enter all the things. And so it's this weird place that I've had to, because I understand people's intentions behind always trust your gut. But also sometimes your body can be wrong. Like in the sense of in the relationship that I'm in now, when it is healthy, that actually feels very unsettling for me because of my whole life I've been in unhealthy relationship dynamics. So now when something is steady and peaceful and loving, it feels weird. It feels off and my body is like, what is this? We need to run. Like this isn't normal, like red flags, but it's not true. So it's something that I'm navigating now is to learning to feel safe in that and that, to check in and know that, sometimes it's not my intuition or my gut, it's actually fear that's coming forward.
Mhm.
And I have to check in and go, okay, is this actually a red flag? Is this something that I need to bring up and talk about? Or is this fear, you know, trying to convince me otherwise? So
Mhm.
that has been my, biggest thing of since being separated is like one, learning way more discernment, not not listening to other people's opinions about what's best for my life, and developing this connection with myself that I've never had before, that I've never actually explored and created space or time to connect to myself in that way. And I was actually sharing this in my group membership last night that for the first time in my life, I have such a deep self trust in me that I've got me that no matter what happens externally, whether people decide to leave because I'm too much or too wild or too emotional or whatever, I'm okay with it.
Mhm.
For the first time in my life, I'm just like, cool. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make me bad. But I got me. And so you can be a part of this journey with me or not. Like, I don't take it personal anymore. I don't make it mean anything about me. It just like this deep acceptance of myself and it feels so freeing. And I really feel that's how I've been able to embody way more of my feminine energy of surrender and letting go because a lot of women that I work with have such a hard time surrendering and letting go because deep down I feel the root is they don't trust themselves. They don't trust how if they're going to be able to show up. They don't trust if that person outside of them hurts them, if they're going to be able to make it through. They don't trust that it's all going to work out. There's this is my opinion with people that women that I've worked with, that there's this deep underlying disconnect in trust in themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, and one could say that that is the root of not listening to the gut as well, is not trusting self. Um, and I want to circle back to the surrender and trust bit, but when I am questioning my gut and immediate, potential fears or second thoughts come up, especially when it pertains to a romantic relationship, I will go to my trusted friends and people's opinions who I value. So I think that there's a difference between just not listening to other people's opinions and not letting them hold stock in your decision making and leaving open space to receive just a select few's opinions who you value and trust the most. Now, those people for me want what's best for me, no matter what, and they know that how much love I have and are unbiased to people that I might be seeing, and they hold just as much love for people in my life as I do. And so I trust that their opinions are not going to be garbage, like, fuck him, move on. They're not going to be biased specifically to me. These few people in my life I know are going to guide me based on not only what is best for me, but what is best for the other person as well. And I hold that in such high regard and I trust it. So if I start having some of these things come up for myself, I will turn to them and ask for feedback and say, hey, am I feeling this way because of my ex-husband? You were there for all this. Like, I really want to hear your opinion. I value it. Give it to me real. And I might have a more formulated, direct question depending on what the thing is that I'm second guessing. But um, we're not meant to do this alone, though it is so, so good to get to know yourself on such a deep fucking level that you know yourself and you know you have yourself and you're good. Um, you also need people too. And I'm a Scorpio, so I'm all about holding up the mirror, giving people reflections. And it took me a minute to, as an adult, to be able to accept getting feedback and reflections in return. I will admit it was very hard for me for a number of years. Um, but it was a growth edge, and I leaned into that growth edge so hard that I not only will turn to my friends for that, but I do like yearly friend check-ins and I say like, hey, was there a moment that I was a bad friend this year? Or how could I be a better friend to you or a better human in your life? What do you need from me?
Gosh, I
Those
love
kinds of
that.
things. Mhm. Yeah, those kinds of things just to nurture because how you show up in one relationship is how you show up in all relationships. And your friends are also a beautiful place for you to practice things that maybe you are a growth edge to, specifically conversations. So the last time I was on here, we were talking about fighting in new relationships, as I mentioned already. And an update for those who listened to the last one and are here now again. Hello. Um, we broke up. We broke up. I trusted my gut, and it turned out to be the absolute best thing for both of us, I believe. And before I broke up with him, I had a girls' night and everybody wore black and it was not intentional, but everybody showed up and we're like, okay, we're grieving, we're letting go. This is an honoring of this relationship. And we came home, had some martinis, came home back to my apartment, had a little sleepover, and my two girlfriends sat there with me and let me practice breaking up with him and what I was going to say because I haven't broken up with someone since like before my marriage. So it was something that I needed to. to practice. And I trust them to do that. And they supported me. And I actually implemented a lot of those things into the conversation when I actually did cut things off with him. So,
I'm like literally crying right now because that is just, that's so beautiful. Like, I just love that there's other deep sisterhood friendships like that because everything that you're saying, I have that. And I'm glad you're bringing that up because I have the same thing. I have a group chat, and these women will know exactly who they are. And I have checked in with them all through my divorce and, all through that process, being a single mom and then dating and like, is this normal? Am I being crazy? Am I out of line? Am I running again?
mhm.
And it's like, I wish women understood, like, and knew that there are other women that can like deeply love you in this way. And so I'm so glad you're bringing this up because it shows other women that there are other women with like unconditional love to pour into you and for you to pour into them. Sorry, I'm just like, it's just like really touching me to see that. And it just makes me so happy that you have that in your life because I know how life changing it is. And exactly what you're saying, like, I got to practice being vulnerable and having hard discussions with my friends because even friendship relationships, you go through hard times together and they will say and do things that will unintentionally hurt you, and you get to practice how you navigate through that. And when you can master that with other women, then when you go into romantic partnerships or even with your parents or coworkers, it rolls over into everything, and it was life
Mhm.
changing for me. And
Yeah.
I just love that you have that too. Like it's just
Yeah. Oh, it's true. It took years
yes,
to
yes.
cultivate it and to really get those deep connections and bonds. And now I'm in a place where those two girlfriends only met briefly one time before, and then they came together to have that night with me, and they bonded, and they're connected now on Snapchat and Instagram and all the things, you know. And I love it when my friends connect and they love each other too. And I have another girlfriend who was going through a really hard time, and I had connected her to another girlfriend. And I was super busy and in my own shit, and I was not able to support her. And they don't really know each other, but this girlfriend stepped forward and supported her, and now they're close as well. And when you find those people, they're there and they show up. And if someone is important to me, then they know how powerful that is, and that other people that are important to me are probably just as valuable because it's magnetic. You know, once you embody these things and figure these things out, they come. The relationships come, the friendships come, the things come, and there will be tests. The universe tests you, you know. But I too am very, very deeply grateful, and I would not have been able to get through that experience and that breakup without them. I know it. And another thing to point out with friendships is if there's something in your romantic partnership that you need to grow into. It's a growth edge. Like, for example, using your voice or speaking your truth or being more vulnerable or, um, I don't know, maybe giving feedback that feels uncomfortable. You can also practice that in your friendships. Be more vulnerable with your friends. Use your voice with your friends. Give them feedback that feels a little bit uncomfortable with your friends because friendship relationships is its own kind of romance, baby. Like we do go through our own trials and tribulations and things there. And in some ways, I've gotten even more fucked up from female friendships than I have romantic partnerships at the same time. So,
Yeah. I cried, there's friendships that I've lost as I've evolved, and there was a couple of them that I was more devastated than some of the breakups I've had. Like the grief lingered for months and months and months of grieving that friendship. So, yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm still grieving one of my ex-best friends from my 20s. Like,
Yeah.
there were a
Yeah.
couple of things that happened that led to us no longer being friends. But I miss her and I think about her all the time and just send her love, send it bless up into the universe, you know?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, friendships.
Yeah.
I could not be who I am or do the things that I do without my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the
Yeah.
same. It literally is. It changed my life. And that's why I'm so passionate about self-love on like the deeper levels because it opened me up to have these deeper friendships. And it's a huge part of why I created my membership Self-Love Society because I was looking for a community of women like me. And I had a hard time finding it. And so I wanted to create what I was looking for. And even now, like the women that are connecting in there and how they support each other, like when I see the messages between them, like it makes me cry because I'm like, it's so healing to be seen by women in this way and not be judged or shamed or feel less than or not enough or all those things and just be supported and celebrated and like and also the other side of when you hit these huge accomplishments or even like the small little wins and they're being celebrated in that, like it's so important for women to be comfortable in being seen by other women in their celebrations and feeling good and having wins. And yeah, it really is life changing. And so I love that you brought that up because I think I don't think I know other women need to know that this does exist and why it's important and how it plays a role in your life. And you know, there's I'm not saying that like partnerships don't last, but like sisterhood friendships are there for everything. And there are conversations for me personally that I would never have with my romantic partner, that I
Mhm.
only
Yeah.
have with my girlfriends. And I think that's so important too, because if you're only going to your partner for all the things, that's just too much for one person. I think it's important to have those friendship dynamics where you talk to them about other things that you don't talk about with your partner. And it's not about having secrets or keeping things from them. It's just you need to have that balance and not expecting, one person to hold everything for you.
Yeah, and it does impact, like it or not, the polarity in a relationship when you rely solely on the other human for everything. And one of my areas of expertise is being vulnerable. And I've just been practicing it since day one. I don't know. I just I embody that shit, man.
You
And
do it really well.
um thank you. You do it well too. And I think that's part of why we connect so easily. It's like, I see you.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there's a difference between being vulnerable and being transparent.
Mhm.
And when you're just transparent and like word vomiting in a relationship, that's not necessarily sexy. And you don't want to fuck someone who's word vomiting all over you
Yeah.
and being totally transparent about all of their fears and all of their things and every little detail about every little thing. It's like, whoa, whew. Like a penis has zero room to enter if the room is filled with word vomit. Okay, we need to clear the space, give it an opening.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, and men can do it too. It's not,
Oh yeah.
there's no gender bias, but I wanted to paint a picture so that people could understand what I'm
Yes.
trying to say.
That's such a good point because like we shared, in the first episode and touched on communicating and being vulnerable and sharing things and having deep conversation is the real intimacy and how you build deeper intimacy. But like everything in life, there's a line and there's a balance. And sharing anything and everything, and exactly, I love how you described all of that. It's not sexy. It's just not. So
And
let's
life wouldn't be exciting if there was just like an answer
mm,
for everything.
mhm,
Like finding those lines and those edges. Ooh, that's exciting and yummy. And when you find that edge of like, okay, now I'm word vomiting and I'm gonna stop, then that is a turn on. And you have that wisdom and that knowledge and that ability now to cultivate more sexiness in your partnership. Like, how exciting. And sometimes there is trial and error, you know? But again, you can practice with your friends.
mhm, mhm. Okay, I want to go back to your breakup story. We kind of went on a tangent there, but I felt it was important to talk about that, and I was emotional. Late luteal phase. This is what happens. Um,
Support you. I'm in my luteal phase as well, of course.
of course, we're in the same phase. Um, so take us back to the breakup. So you met up with your girlfriends. You guys practiced of how it was going to go, and that's where we kind of went on a tangent.
Yeah. So that was on, gosh, I don't even remember. I think it was a Monday, a Sunday, Saturday. I don't remember when it was.
Was there something
But
specific that just clicked for you that you're like, I'm done? Or was it a lot of little things? Like, what led to you deciding I'm done? Like, I need to leave this relationship?
mhm. Yeah, so for the span of uh since we recorded that podcast up until the point that I broke up with him, basically, I think it was like a month and a half ago, maybe. There were little fights that started to show up. And I am a conflict-based communicator in general. No, not he is a conflict-based communicator. I'm a solution-based communicator. And it was one of our biggest differences. And he would try to meet me, and it was just I don't even have the words without getting into like specific examples of what happened because the fights would happen over the stupidest, pettiest, dumb shit. And I'm like, oh, okay, now we're fighting. Cool. Like, amazing. It's like 7:30 in the morning. This is great, you know? And in his mind, I was the one starting the fights, but know very damn well that it was not me starting the fights because my nervous system was not activated. He was activated.
Mm,
And the actual words that were coming out of our mouth, mine were solution based, his were conflict based. And then there would be a rupture. And then, with some space and some time and some reflection, we would come back together. He would take ownership of things. And then, wouldn't you know it, it would happen again. And just to give more context, we were in a little bit of a long distance partnership. He lives an hour and a half away. And he wakes up at 5:30 in the morning, goes to work, goes to the gym, goes to school from 6 to 9, and then comes home and goes to bed. I too lead a very busy life. And so when we were together on the weekends, we would also have plans. There would be a concert, or we're meeting friends, or we're doing this, or we're doing that. And so there wasn't a lot of time to have those hard conversations to really get in there.
mm,
Um, and I was suffering because of that. And I kept thinking, like, okay, this weekend is going to be the weekend that we talk about things and build bridges. And after just a couple of weeks of it, I was done. And we had like the finale, the final fight, the weekend before I broke up with him. And he just, I'll give you some examples here. So we went on a weekend getaway and we're in this beautiful home in the woods in a mountain and had decided to take a bath that night. And he's big into UFC and likes to watch the fights. And if you know anything about those fights, they happen very quickly. So you could potentially miss a fight that you want to see because sometimes the fights are over in like a couple of minutes. Sometimes they're not. But we're on this romantic getaway. We decide to take a bath. I gather all the candles in the house. I put them in the bathroom. I light them up. I put essential oils and bubbles and dim the lights and music, and everything is ready to go. I disrobe, walk into the bathroom. His phone is leaning against the candles with the fights on. And I'm like, okay, is the fight that you want to watch on right now? And he's like, I just don't want to miss it. It's fine. It's fine. It's just on in the background. And in my head, I'm like, okay, don't love that. Not gonna start a fight with him though. Gonna enjoy the bath. So I get into the bath and things are getting hot in the bath and we're getting ready to fuck, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so he's like, I don't want to do it in the bath. Let's get out of the bath. Water is going to get everywhere, whatever. Let's go into the bedroom. So we get out of the bath and I go into the bedroom, and I'm a woman. I have to like brush my hair and dry off and, lotion and stuff after the bath and walk into the room. The fights are on. He's got snacks, he's got beverages. And I'm like, okay, are the fights on now that you wanted to watch? I'm confused.
I love you.
And like to be honest, like I don't even really need to finish the story because already it's like not working, right? But essentially what happened is we're just not aligned. And his fights were on and he looks at me and he's like, "Okay, do you want to have sex now?" And I'm like, the fights are, can we turn your phone off and connect first? Like, it's still on. And he got mad and like tossed his phone across the room and just overreacted. And I was like, okay. So, that was like the grand finale of our relationship. And I came home in the moment, I noticed with him, with our fights, that I started to get into a little bit of a fawning trauma response, which is not a trauma response that I have ever had before in my life. And I think it's because of what I went through with my ex-husband.
Can you
And
explain to people what fawn response is, just in case they don't know?
yeah, so there's a variety of trauma responses like fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And fawning is when you basically tell the other person whatever it is that they want to hear so that you don't fight. So you diffuse the energy. And it doesn't even have to be words, it could be behaviors. Like you fawn to the other person, basically like giving your power away and like dimming yourself down or pressing yourself down. And so that response started to show up. And when we would not be together, I would reflect on that and be like, oh, this is so weird. I've never had this trauma response before. Like, I don't know what to do with it. I started analyzing, reflecting on myself and where I could show up differently and where I could grow and learn and explore. And to be honest, that is sometimes to my detriment as a Scorpio, is we get thrills on living in the shadows. And so I might have stayed with him like a few weeks too long because I was like, this is so fascinating. Like, what is happening in here? Um, so yeah, in the moment, I was very much fawning and just, as a woman, I only dated him for 2 to 3 months. It was a very short-term relationship, and I'm with this man that I've only known for 2 to 3 months in the woods, in a cabin. I don't fucking know. Danger. So I'm fawning and, get home and I'm like, yeah, after about a day of recalibration, I'm like, it's over. There's no coming back from this. Absolutely none. But I couldn't break up with him right away because when we would communicate, he would be in the car on the way to the gym, on the way to school, on the way to work. There just literally wasn't a good time. And so I had to, unfortunately, but also in my defense, I was trying to be as considerate of him and his life as I possibly could be. And I waited for a moment where he was at home
Hmm. Hmm.
for me to break up with him. So I ended up dragging it out, I guess, for a lack of better terms, for another week, um, which I didn't really want to do, and it was weighing on me, but it felt right to do at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Um, can you tell me more about this conflict solution based or conflict based and solution based fighting? That's I've never heard of it described that way. I'm really interested. Is there other ones or is there just those two?
As far as I know, there's just those two. It's kind of like yes or no, right?
Mm,
Like
okay.
there might be a maybe, but do you really want a maybe? You either want a yes or a no, right? So, conflict based would be projecting, gaslighting, reacting instead of responding. So, when you just immediately go into action when there's tension and you're reacting, that's so different from responding
Hmm.
because you're just activated. Like the word act is in there. So you're activated. Whereas when you respond, you're taking a moment, receiving, analyzing, and then responding. So that's more conflict based. Conflict based is you ask questions, you're curious, you're trying to build a bridge, you're willing to
That's
do the
conflict or
things.
solution based?
Solution based,
Okay.
solution based. Did
Okay.
I say conflict?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might have.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry. Solution based, thank you, is your like, for example, one of my love languages is physical touch. And so I would say to him, hey, when we're in these little moments of tension, it would mean so much to me for you to just touch me literally anywhere for any amount of time. I do not care. That is a solution based behavior and way of navigating conflict. Building bridges, trying to see things from the other person's perspective, trying to understand. That's where the question asking comes in as well. Um, and unfortunately, there was not one time that he put his hand out for me. I would go to him and try to get what I literally needed from him in those moments. And that is very sad.
That is really sad.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's okay. And it was very similar to how things played out with my ex-husband. It's like all of the sudden a flip switched and I was like, whoa, what is happening here? Like we're fighting all the time. And if he would have reached out for me, then maybe things would be different, but he did not, and they are not. But yes, there are vast differences between the conflict-based and the solution-based fighting.
I love that there's a name for that because I'm definitely a solution-based person in fighting. In I would describe it as like we're a team. We're getting curious together to come up with a solution. This is not me coming at you. This is not me criticizing you. This is not me attacking you because there are a lot of people that are like that. Um,
Mhm.
and I definitely there were times in my marriage that I turned into that person. But through growth and learning and also learning how to pause, like truly pause and really truly listen to the other person and listen to understand them and not feel like I need to have a response straight away or a knee jerk reaction and really take things in, even not just in romantic partnerships, but just out in life in general. You know,
Mhm.
when I'm at a restaurant or at a gas station or whatever it is, and how people respond or are talking to me or treating me or whatever. I practice it all the time. And
Yeah.
it is definitely a skill that you can improve upon. So if you are watching this and you're like, man, I'm a conflict based person and I definitely react and stuff like that. Where do you think that that comes from? I personally think that comes from, not feeling seen and heard as a child and, wanting to like, fight for yourself in a way and, coming to the defense. But like for me, when I come to someone with something, um, it's not that I want to make you a bad person or say that you're doing something wrong. It's just, hey, when you said this or when you did this, it made me feel this kind of way. I don't know if that was your intention, but this is how it made me feel. Can we get curious together as to find a solution to this? And like, I just want to get some clarity on that. And can we, you know, come up with a solution together so this doesn't happen again? Because it really made me feel this kind of way, and I don't like feeling that kind of way. Um, so yeah, I love that there's like actually names for it.
Mhm.
But what do
Yeah.
you feel like more women or men are in different categories, or is it a mix of both?
Oh, it's definitely a mix of both because women could be very reactive as well.
Hmm.
Um, And I love your the I versus team bit as well. And that is very, very much solution based. Another thing that is conflict based is finger pointing and blaming, because that's the opposite of that, right? It's me versus you versus us versus the problem.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Which makes
Yeah. But
such a difference. Like just the words that you use impact the conversation that you're going to have and how you communicate with each other. And I am the same in when you're having, heated discussions or whatever. I feel like there should be no interruptions and you should make eye to eye contact. And if you can, like touch each other's leg or hold hands or whatever, even if you're like really angry at the person, like coming down and like touching each other to remember like you're in this together. This is not a me against you thing. And I personally feel having some sort of physical connection just shifts very like just a subtle way of the energy between the two of you, whoever that person is that you're having the discussion with, by just having that physical connection. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and some other examples of that, like let's say your love language is words of affirmation. My ex-husband actually did a great job of this when we would fight. He would say something like, "You're so cute when you're mad," or something like that. And it just diffuses the heat.
Mm,
Now, if you are a words of affirmation person, he was a words of affirmation person. And a lot of times we show up and act from the place of our own love languages. And it's important to know what your partner's love languages are ahead of time. And maybe even having like a game plan of, hey, in the heat of the moment, what is it that you need from me to feel connected and to know that I'm on your side? And if you know what their love languages are, you could say, if I said X, Y, and Z in the middle of a fight, how would that make you feel? So there's things like safeguards and things that you can do to help support you having a win against the problem for your team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Instead of in a lot of situations, I know in my marriage, where you don't fully get to the root of the problem and it just kind of scratches the surface a little bit, just enough to be able to continue to move on, and then it gets kind of shoved down. But then if you
Oh,
have a
yeah.
whole bunch of little moments like that that get shoved, in this thing, eventually that is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you're going to have this big blow up that's just not going to be pretty. It's just not.
hmm You know, it's not. And also, um, there was a moment when I blew up at my ex-husband, and it was one of the most empowering moments.
Oh no, I lost you.
Hello again.
Hello again. Sorry that happened. That was so weird. It was like it's such a juicy part too.
Uh, it's funny. I do, card readings and stuff on the side, and sometimes when there's a big portal or like a big message or lots of energy coming through, it's like the universe just combusts for a second and doesn't know how to handle it, and technology goes haywire, and it's happened so many times.
Same.
So yeah, should I just pick up where I
Yes,
was?
let's go. It was getting good.
Okay.
I was like, "Oh, it was the most empowering thing." Yes, let's hear about that because then I can't wait to share mine because I've done the same.
Yeah, yeah. So we were talking about when things just build up, and then the steam has to go somewhere. And I will never forget just literally going off on my ex-husband about the baseboards in our apartment. He was criticizing me for how I cleaned something, and I was like in full-blown hot girl clean mode, baggy shirt, hair's a mess, you're sweating, like I don't know, I might have been on my period even. It was just like a moment, right? There was so much heat happening, and I was cleaning and I was feeling myself. And I remember just storming into the living room and being like, have you ever cleaned a fucking baseboard? Like, you're criticizing my cleaning, but have you ever once in this relationship cleaned a baseboard? I think not. So let me just continue on with my cleaning. And obviously, there were a lot more words than that, and there was a lot more anger, but it was one of the most empowering moments of my life. And then I circled back and I was like, and another thing. I had just gotten these knives for Christmas, and they're wooden handles, and he kept letting them soak in the sink.
Mm,
And I'm like, motherfucker with my knives. Like, it was a really nice knife set. And the root of that is like, I didn't trust him. I
mm,
couldn't trust him with things that I cared about, i.e., me, i.e., my heart. And so it's never about the knives or the baseboards or any of the things, the dishes, whatever. It is always a deeper issue. And until you identify what that is, those little things will happen. And the little things might happen too. If you're fighting about knives or baseboards, your relationship could be fine and you're just fighting about baseboards and the knives, you know?
mhm,
But there were more deeper issues, and it was a moment of just pure bliss and empowerment. And there were moments from my marriage and with my ex-husband that before things really started to wither, that I really appreciated him for. And he let me have my moment there. He was like, anything else? You know? Like, let it out, babe, And I was like, yeah. But like he realized it clicked. He's like, oh. she's having this moment and like it's just, and I'm gonna support her in it, you know?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it was very, very empowering. And a lot of times in relationships, that rawness and that truth, even if it is a steam blowing, you know, its top, it's needed.
Hmm.
And if you are listening and you can feel like, ooh, yeah, I might blow my steam soon or whatever, like there are things that you can do to temper it if you don't want to blow up. And I'm not saying go like balls to the wall and scream at your man or your partner. But that rawness and that realness is medicine at the same time, especially for women. We get to learn how to alchemize our emotions and transmute them. And someone that I have followed for years who has really helped me with this is Madeline Moon, and she teaches like acting and archetypes and embodiment. And so there were certain moments, especially in my marriage, where he knew that I was exploring those aspects of myself. And it is so important to, yeah, let that part of you out. And if you can't do it in your partnership, you can do it with your friends, like we talked about in the beginning of this episode. Or you can do it by yourself. Fuck it. Like have a rage session, you know?
Hmm.
Uh, Whatever it is that you need to do because your feelings are valued and they are valid. And you get to have you and you get to support you and give yourself whatever it is that you need, especially if your partner, for some reason, is not presently able to meet you and to do so.
Hmm. Yes, I love that because expressing your emotions, actually, what I want to say is knowing how to express your emotions is so important for men and women, but women especially because a lot of women that I've worked with actually have a lot of underlying anger and resentment. And that physically manifests into serious health issues. And if you don't find a way to express that, it is going to physically manifest into a very serious health issue. And I just can't tell you how many women that I work with that I teach them to have rage sessions on their own and how good they feel after just having that permission slip to act like a quote unquote crazy woman because, of societal conditioning and beliefs around, if a woman expresses anything but happiness, that she's too much or crazy or whatever. But learning that, it's okay to be angry. Like we're allowed to be angry. It's just how you express it and how you come across. And also, a lot of women that I work with come across very passive aggressive, and that's not healthy for any relationship dynamic. So, learning how to let your rage out, your anger out, and things like that, so you can come to the other person a little bit more grounded and regulated instead of like what you're talking about, just screaming, yelling at them, and just going off. It's going to be a much more productive conversation, and it's going to be much more well received because people do need to know that they've upset you. Um, but like we've been talking about, it's coming up with a solution together so it doesn't happen again. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So one of
And to be clear, we had those safeguards in place as well. So
my,
we're talking about safeguards with, you know, love languages and amidst conflict. Like he knew that I was exploring embodiment and different archetypes and like full-blown expression. And so you can have these conversations with your partner ahead of time. In the heat of the moment is not ideal. But yes, you can have them ahead of time so that it can be better received. And it still may not. He still could have reacted even though he knew that and we had previous conversations. Um, But that's the fun bit of relationships is navigating them together.
And let me tell y'all, when you have a connection with your romantic partner about communicating and you both feeling seen and you coming up with a solution together and you working through that, your intimate life is going to get so much better because of it. So if you're watching this or listening to this and your, intimacy life, sex life is, dull or not exciting or alive or all those things, usually the root of that is a miscommunication and that or a disconnect, and the disconnect comes from the miscommunication, not being able to connect with each other on a deeper level of communicating. Because if you, like for me, when I felt unseen and unheard in the little things like Serena was talking about, whether it's baseboards or dishes or laundry or whatever, I'm not going to be turned on by you, and then vice versa. He wasn't turned on by me because I was quote unquote bickering, and it was how I was approaching the situation. But when you can come to a solution of those things and you both feel seen and you both feel heard and you can come up with a solution together, it deepens your intimacy, and all of a sudden, your Lady Kingdom's open for business and you ready to go. Like
Hmm.
it's it's just it's so important, and sex is a huge part of connecting in a relationship. And if you're not connecting in that way, in my opinion, there is something deeper going on that you guys need to explore and connect on.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think another word and layer to this part of the conversation is safety.
Mm.
Because if a woman feels safe to be all of herself and she feels seen and heard, that's when the, as you put it, Lady Kingdom is open for business because that's the most vulnerable, raw part of our womanhood is, our vulva. And so if our heart is not open, then our legs are not open, essentially.
Ooh,
And
I love that.
yes, and men and women are different in those ways. Like men need the physical connection for their heart to be open, and women need their heart to be open for the physical connection. And again, it's all a matter of perspective, right? Because that's the fun of dating and relationships and marriage is being able to meet each other and see each other. Otherwise, like, what are you doing?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to add
Literally.
another layer that I've learned in working with clients is women feeling safe to receive. And the women that I've worked with, when they learn how to receive intimately from their partner or even from themselves, it's like a whole other, like they just unlock a whole other level of abundance that they didn't even come to me for, but it's like a byproduct of working with me and learning how to receive, and not just receive, but literally feeling safe in their body to receive. Do you feel that when working with some of your clients and maybe your own experience?
Yeah, so um it's interesting because the brain moves so quickly and I'm sitting here equal parts admiring you and also following along with this conversation because I love how much you have brought up, the group that you offer and working with clients. And I imagine that that's one of the main reasons for having the podcast is to share about these beautiful offerings and things. And I'm just sitting here like, huh, I should, when I'm on I should really talk more about
Hmm.
my business. And
Hmm.
I was sitting here thinking like, am I blocking myself from receiving? I'm like having my own mindfuck conversation over here in my head, while listening to you. And, you know, I do work with women, and I also have a community that's very intimate and beautiful and connective and healing. And um, yeah, it's such a wonderful thing to help people see themselves more and feel themselves more. And I thank you for just being a beautiful inspiration and reflection for me in this moment of, yeah, opening myself up to talk more about the value that I have with the world and to potentially receive more from that as well. So thank you. Um, and yes, I'd like to answer this with a client experience that they had.
Yes.
So this woman that I was working with, my coaching containers are 3 months. So she was finding herself very frustrated with the lack of intimacy in her relationship, which is exactly what we're talking about. Now, her and her husband worked opposite schedules. And so the physical, like, reality of it was problem number one. But then when they were together and had time, there were all these other layers, right? And she found herself coming to him, desiring him, wanting more, him getting some like performance anxiety and just not being able to meet her. And I'm sure that so many people can relate to this dynamic and situation and have been there before. So I'll let that be enough for now. But I said to her, what if you start to meet your own needs? Fuck yourself. Make time for yourself to pleasure yourself. And don't just like grab a vibrator and put porn on. I mean, give yourself the intimacy, the connection, the touch, the candles, the romance, all of the fucking things that you are wanting. Give them to yourself. Because what's going to happen is one, you're one step closer to meeting your needs. Two, you are relieving some steam, right? So that there's not as much pressure building up. And it's all energy. And he feels that energy, right? And so, like I was saying with the word vomiting, if there's all this pressure, it's like there's no space for the penis to enter. That's how men work, right? That's how their brain works.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
um, and she did that. She redirected her energy, and it just opened up so much more for them and their marriage and their intimacy and their relationship through the time that we worked together just totally flipped.
That's life
And
changing,
it
literally.
is. It literally is. Yeah. And beautiful.
Thank you for
And she
sharing.
makes me cry all the time. She'll send me voice notes like, oh my God, this, and this happened. And I'm like, oh, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Aw. And
Yeah.
I love that you shared that because, that's why I was saying like sex is such a big part of, and not just sex, like connecting intimately is such a big part of a relationship. And if you're not taking the time to do that, eventually it's going to blow up. Something's going to happen. And I just wanted to, because I know what you do and I know how good you are at what you do. And I wanted people to know like you're not alone in what you're going through. And I'd also love to know with, the clients that you've worked with, because I know you work with couples and individuals, but with couples specifically, what do you feel is like the main issue for a lot of couples in connecting with one another?
Communication, hands down. Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. I mean, Google has that answer as well, to be honest. Like, it's not revolutionary, but at the same time, when you learn different communication tools, it is revolutionary. And something that I love about, so another, I'd say, skill set of mine is conscious communication. I've studied language and pushed a lot of edges on my personal development journey with communication. Ask anyone in my family. Um, yeah, when it comes to conscious communication, if you just change your words and commit to that, it is less emotional gunk that you need to process and work through and transmute. Those things still get to happen and are just as important. And I think that we've highlighted that quite a bit in this episode. But simply changing how you speak, to yourself, to others, and especially in your partnership, if you two can devote to that and to just simply changing your words, it opens up so many doors and can provide so much healing again without the emotional processing part of it. Yes, that will still happen. There are triggers, and you don't just like decide to do something and are perfect at it and everything works out okay and great like the next day. That's not how life works. But it does put you in the right direction. It moves the dial in the direction that you are trying to move the dial, and it's easy.
Mm,
It's more of a logical thing than a heart-based thing. Although the heart is a part of it, you
mhm,
get what I'm saying.
mhm, mhm. So when people come to you, either individually or couples, do they come to you saying, "Oh, we're having communication issues," or do they say other things that they want help with? And then when you get into the sessions, you immediately uncover it's a communication issue or
Yeah, so a lot of times, and maybe you can attest to this too as a coach in this world, or really in any service industry professional, um, you attract people who are similar to you
disconnect.
or previous versions of you. And so it's a healthy mix of people who have the self-awareness enough because they're not new to the personal development game, because I'm literally a nerd about life.
Mm-hmm.
I love learning and growing and edge pushing and playing in the shadows and the light intentionally. Um, Again, sometimes to my detriment. Um, but because of that, I will have people show up with enough self-awareness to name things. And a lot of times it can be, yes, we're having communication issues, or the root is, I think, this or that. Um, and then I also have people that show up just because they want a better sex life.
Mm,
They want a better dating life. They want a better partnership.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. Yes, I would say most of the women that I work with have done the inner work, have done retreats, have done, you know, done a lot of the things, but are looking for a different angle and a different perspective. Um, I was gonna ask something else on top of that, and now it's slipped my mind. Um, oh, that's all right. It'll come back to me in a minute. um, for for your dating experience, what would be one piece of advice that you would give women who are, either single or newly separated, newly divorced? Like, what's one thing it feel is important for them to know, if they're freshly out of it, based on where you're at now from where you were then?
Mhm. Um, to fill your cup. I think a lot of women, especially because we have that thing called the ticking time bomb inside of us. And it's our natural urge to, want to be a caregiver and be in love and be in a relationship. And there's also a lot of societal conditioning of, what happiness looks like for women. And a lot of times it's connected to being in a partnership and being with a man. And so there's lots of rhyme and reason to drive us to want to get back out there or to be in partnership. And my advice is to make sure that you're doing it from a very full place, because when you're not doing it from a full place, that's where you get misled, or you're filling a part of yourself with something that like you truly don't want.
Mm. That is really good advice because that
Thanks.
is what I needed and why I was actually single for a while because I was like, what do I want? What does make me happy? What does make me fulfilled? And even the things you talked about being intimate with myself, I was like, what does that look like for me? What do I even like and don't like in regards to that? And I used to take myself on dates every month, like literally wine and dine myself once a month, sometimes twice a month, to give myself the experience that I was desiring. And
Mm-hmm.
so that I knew what the standard would be for me because I would want somebody to match that or better. And if they didn't, I would know that that's not an aligned person for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you say fill your cup up, it's like that looks different for every woman, but for me, it was those type of things. Like I want to be pursued, I want to be taken out on date nights, I want to travel, but it's also the little daily things that I do for myself. And, again, so that way when somebody comes into my life, they are adding to my life because I've
Mm-hmm.
already fulfilled, everything I can. Obviously, there's certain aspects that I can't do for myself that, a relationship brings to your life. But overall, it's someone that's going to add to my life.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it is really important to do that for yourself. And, I really didn't know what that meant. And I also never sat with any of that and thought about what that looks like or created the time to do what I wanted to do and what filling up my cup truly meant.
Yeah.
And so I actually took that time of being single and it really just enjoyed it and enjoyed getting to know myself without
Mm-hmm.
the pressures of being in a relationship or thinking about what they wanted, what they needed, how to show up for them. Like, I just didn't have any of that noise. It was just about what I wanted for a little while. And it was such a beautiful time for me that I'll cherish forever because,
Yeah.
it's a really sacred time, in my opinion, to be single. It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing bad like I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that so much. And it's so beautiful to hear. And it's interesting being again newly single at this age, after divorce, etc. And some people have met me with the yeah, just like curiosity of what am I gonna do now, And like they had so much hope for him and like they're grieving for me. And I'm like, listen, I love being single. Like I'm okay with it. Um, Not to take away from the connection and the relationship that I had with him at all. And I took my time to grieve it for sure. And I'm still grieving it in some ways as well. But I absolutely love being single. And this is potentially, hopefully, potentially my last hot girl summer. You know what I mean? Because I am getting older. So I'm so excited and happy to be where I am and to deepen in my own practices and devotions and values and all of the things. And so I truly adore hearing the sacredness that you shared with yourself because I feel similarly. But when I meet people in conversation with that, with this recent breakup, I don't just say that I love being single. I say, I love being single. I love dating. I love. I love relationships. I love all of it. It's like I am truly happy wherever I am
Mm,
with romance and partnership because of the connection and relationship that I share with myself.
mm. I love that.
Mhm.
Yes. I love
And
you.
I already took myself out on a date since the breakup. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I've been spending a lot of time doing self-care and the things that make me happy. And I think it's a beautiful reflective question to pose to anybody that's listening, man or woman. What does fill your cup?
Yeah. Yeah. What
And
does
how can you
and
have more of it?
what do you want? What does make you happy? There's so many women that know what they don't want, and maybe even men too, but they don't know what they actually want.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think the coming from a full cup advice is definitely step one. And I think we're getting to like step two, three, or four here with the identifying what you want and how to actualize it in reality to call in that person. Um, but yeah, definitely step one is fill your cup. And it helps you identify the next steps in the process with so much clarity if you focus on that first step first.
Yes. This has been amazing, as I knew it would be. And thank you so much for your time and your vulnerable shares. And I've always learned something from you when we have these conversations, which I love. And I definitely want to do another chat because I just feel like there's so much more to talk about in all of this. And how can people reach out to you to work with you, or what are your offerings right now? Please share with us.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Before I get there, thank you. And I truly feel just inspired by you today. And that feels so good. And, tears are coming up in this moment, just the deep gratitude that I have to be here and to connect with you. It means so much to me. Um, and I too learn from you as well. So to work with me, I have a 3-month minimum coaching container because change doesn't happen overnight or because you decided to do so. It happens with time and effort and devotion and consistency. And I'm here to help support you and guide you along the way with love and sometimes the hard reflective truth at the same time. People tell me that I deliver those hard truths in a way that they can actually receive them because of the sound of my voice. It's like I could say the meanest shit and they're okay with receiving it because of my delivery, which is ironic because we were spending a lot of time talking about delivery here with conversations and conflict. Um, and so, yeah, I am actually open right now for clients. I only open my schedule to clients a couple times a year because I like the contracts to start and end around the same time. So if I want to take a vacation or take some time off from coaching for a beat, I can. So right now I am open for business and would love, 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 love to work with people one-on-one. I work with singles and couples, men and women. And I also have a spiritual baddies community group of just intimate women who don't know where to turn to learn all the things about spirituality, but it's more than that because we do share vulnerably about life in there as well. And we have a monthly group call where we do a guided card reading that I lead. So you get some introspection and some juicy spiritual development work, and we reflect and connect and telegram. Um, in the in between time. So those are my two main offerings right now, and I do have breakthrough coaching sessions as well if you just want to give me a little taste. That's an hour and a half, and we will break through whatever is most present for you. But my deepest work is definitely the one-on-one coaching containers because you basically get to be my friend for life after that. And I pour my heart into you, and it's my passion.
I actually was thinking of a client that I want to send you for um, her and her husband. It like just clicked, and I was like, oh, I need to send them to you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I would love
I'll
to
do that
talk.
after we get off this call. It just all
Yeah,
clicked for me. Um,
yeah. Oh, I also forgot Instagram, spiritual sex coach. And website is serenarosejarvis.com. Serena like the tennis player, Rose like the flower, and Jarvis like the robot thing that's in some movie. I don't know. I'm not a big movie TV person, but there's a Jarvis robot somewhere. Like,
I love
I
it.
don't know, some action movie. People are like, oh, like the robot? And I'm like, yeah, like the robot.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting again. And yeah, curious to see what comes up the next time we connect.
Hot Girl Summer recap. Woohoo.
Yes, yes. Thank you, everybody, for listening, or if you're watching. If anything resonated and you feel called to share this episode, we would appreciate that. Or you have any questions, feel free to slide into our DMs. We love having a chat with you and connecting and share with us, the takeaway that you had from our conversation. Um,
Yes, please.
yes, we love it. We love connecting in those DMs. So we will see you again next time. Thanks for listening.